Compass Mining is your trusted partner in Bitcoin mining. Whether you're investing in one machine or thousands, our customizable solutions are tailored to meet your needs. We are your experts in Bitcoin mining, offering a platform where individuals and businesses can purchase hardware, host machines, and access a range of ancillary Bitcoin mining services. We also specialize in large-scale site development and data center operations. Discover more at compassmining.io and see how we can power your success today. Hey miners, welcome back to the channel McNallie Money, the new home of power mining analysis. Here we have it, Thursday morning, blood in the streets. Bitcoin has pulled back in a big way overnight, down to about $88,000 US. The miners obviously following suit. A big sell-off during yesterday's trading. It was actually the biggest single day unrealized loss I've ever had in my trading career. Today is really a continuation of that. Now, as a result, a lot of people have started to ask themselves, is this mining rally going to be sustained or has it been canceled? And in today's video, Anthony Power and I are going to attempt to answer that exact question. Now, before we get into it, take a second, smash the like button, you guys. Big help to myself and the channel. If you're not already subscribed, McNallie Money, feel free to join and let us know in the comment section below how you're feeling in light of the last 72 hours of trading. If you've managed to add to any of your positions or been shaken out based on some of the concerns you've had with this pullback. Now, with that being said, let's get into today's video. Anthony, we put out a sell strategy video this week. It appears the market has really responded in a big way to that video. A continued sell-off starting yesterday, deep in the red. I said in the intro, it was my biggest single day unrealized loss in my trading career. That's continued today. I said in our last podcast, Anthony, we had hurried out. We got you a new light. We got you a new camera. I hope they have a good return policy because the Bitcoin mining stocks have taken a turn here. That's what we're going to be talking about in today's video, you guys. Is this a healthy consolidation or has the Bitcoin mining stock rally been canceled? Anthony, Thursday morning, how are you feeling over there?
Feeling all right, but obviously, a little bit of pullback now since Monday's highs in the mining and not really correlated with the Bitcoin price, but we'll chat through some of the thought processes around that.
Did you get a return policy on that new spiffy light you got over there, Anthony?
I didn't actually know. I mean, I don't know how long it lasts for anyway. So but it's all part and parcel of being in this space for 4 years. You have ups and down days, and today, a little bit of a pullback from yesterday. Not as big a pullback today, so maybe we're getting close to that bottom. But yeah, I mean, I think our timing of videos, there's a lot to be said for our timing this week. I mean, we've had some really explosive videos this week. It looks like we did call the top, and we did get people to start thinking about the sales strategy because it looks like a lot of retailers have done that. And we've had a few messages come in from certain retailers. I mean, Robbie in part of my family's neck of the woods in Dungarvan, Ireland, he's told me today that he's got quite a bit more cash in his portfolio now because he senses there might be a bit more to this, but he's ready there on the sidelines if the miners start to move again. So we've talked about taking some profits when you feel fit, and bear in mind we're talking about even going back to the 1st of October. The majority of miners are still very, very much in the green, even though we've had a pullback last few days. I think HUT 8 is probably still over 90% up since the 1st of October. So if you've bought HUT 8 stock in that period of time, you'd be sitting pretty. And I think there's only about 3 or 4 mining stocks that are in negative territory over that period. Most of them are in positive, and most of them are sort of 50, 60, 70% up. Now, they were on Monday, 2 or 3 miners that were 100% up. But, we've had a bit of a pullback, bit of profit taking, and people out there will have their own strategies. Also, we're seeing updates. Maybe some of the market makers are playing games and all that, and there's been a lot of short interest lately. So trying to squeeze these shares down before they go in and buy a bulk of these shares, because believe you me, it ain't correlated with the Bitcoin price too much. And if the Bitcoin price is going to keep going like we expect it to be, the miners will play catch up soon. And when they do, you just need to be in the mining stock at that point in time. So we're not nowhere near anywhere near the middle or the end of a bull cycle. We're probably at the very, very start of the bull cycle, and we've got the whole of 2025 to keep managing this.
Yeah, we certainly do. We're going to explore that topic in more detail. Before we do, though, you mentioned Hut 8 having a very strong performance. We were supposed to host Asher and Sue today for earnings interview. It sounds like that's going to be pushed either to tomorrow or next week. So apologies for that, you guys. Obviously, a lot of analyst attention with Hut 8 right now, and the schedules are pretty full. So we'll get that one out as soon as possible. Now, Anthony, you bring up a few great points. Our good friend Robbie has switched over to majority cash right now. We talk about the importance of having cash on the sidelines. I've been following A-Trades as well on Twitter. He essentially did call this pullback, bought some puts, so took it a step further and had some cash on the sideline. So we're going to bring up the Bitcoin chart here. We talked about the fact that we were flirting or just surpassed $93,000 US. Huge run since the Trump win, the US federal election here earlier in the month. Now, Anthony, if you look at today's price, we're flirting 88,600 range. So a fairly significant drawdown, $4,000 or $5,000 from the high. Where do you see this going from here? You mentioned the miners are starting to slow the pace of decline. Do you feel like maybe this sell-off is getting near the bottom?
I think the Bitcoin price is probably just had a little bit of a pullback. I mean, bear in mind, look at how much the Bitcoin price has rallied. It wasn't long before the election, days up to the election, the Bitcoin price was around 70,000, hadn't even achieved an all-time high. And since the election, we've had probably all-time high in about 4 or 5 different days. So there's no give up on the ETFs buying Bitcoin. The popularity we've known from Google searches that it's on the increase of Bitcoin now. More and more people look to be coming back into the space. We're seeing that from the podcast as well. We've had a great week in terms of views this week. So a lot of interest out there in Bitcoin, just like it was during previous cycles. And earlier last year when we started to see the Bitcoin rally, because I mean it couldn't go much further. It dropped down to 15,500 at December 2023. So in early last year we saw sort of as it rallying people interest there, and now we think they're coming back into the space again now. So timely into the space, and when we come on to look at what the ETFs have been buying, this will probably be able to explain more about where we think the price will go. It's only probably going to go in one direction. That's still going upwards.
You're exactly right there. ETFs is next up. You read my mind, Anthony. This is the first reason why you and I both agree the miner rally is not canceled. The amount of ETF inflows. Now, interestingly enough, we'll bring up the daily view next. I just saw this tweet come out from Bitcoin Magazine last night stating that Bitcoin ETFs overall have now surpassed $500 billion in cumulative trading volume within the last 10 months. So this is a record for the fastest ETF ever in history, period, in any commodity, any sector, any company. So obviously that bodes extremely well to Bitcoin. Now we zoom into the daily view here, a continuation of that trend. We've seen $510 million on the 13th of November, Anthony, nearing 5 billion in the last 6 days alone.
Yeah, 5 billions. It's a significant amount. We talked how much Bitcoin is being produced a day, and it's probably around about 40 million. So that's 125, 130 days production in 5 days. It's just relentless. That's an average of 25 days daily production bought every day over the last 6 days. There, it's just. Yeah, and so who would think if the buying pressure is that high, where is the price going to go? It's just basic simple economics. There's not enough Bitcoin out there to cope with this relentless purchasing now. And you go back a year ago, no companies were buying Bitcoin. Even the ones that, and there was only a few of them wanted to buy Bitcoin, couldn't buy Bitcoin. And most of them have said, stay away from it. It's not a real investment. And look at where we are now, 5 billion of Bitcoin in 6 days. It's just, it's just unprecedented. I remember hearing, I think it was like after 2 months of the ETFs, it already surpassed 2 years of what the gold ETF had done. Um, and yes, the value of gold worldwide, and there's an endless, pretty much an endless supply of gold still being mined now. There's no end to that. But Bitcoin's got a bit of a way to catch up to the value of gold as an asset class. But who's going to bet against it at this rate? It's just taking record after record. And I still say, pullbacks. People, when it got to like 93, this is an all-time high. An all-time high. We were all-time high from $74,000, just over a week ago. And some people take profits as it was going up there. We talked about on the podcast about when it reaches 100, there'll be another indicator that people will take profits on Bitcoin because it's a significant amount. It's a six-digit number, and whether it goes through 100 and keeps rallying, or whether it goes to 100 and pulls back, because people will have sort of like sell positions in place in case it does go to 100. And they get activated at that point in time, and you'll see a pullback there. But for me, not selling any Bitcoin. Not quite the same with mining companies. I will still look at the mining companies, but I looked today on the graph. I mean, yes, we're down the last couple of days, but if we go back to the 6th of November, my portfolio is back to where it was on the 6th of November, which is less than a week ago. So not really time to start running for the hills.
Compass Mining makes Bitcoin mining accessible to everyone. Start mining in as little as 48 hours with our turnkey hardware, online and mining directly to your Bitcoin wallet within 2 business days. Find out more at compassmining.io and get started now. You bring up a couple very interesting points there, Anthony. The first, you make reference to that psychological $100,000 level again, which we talked about in our sell strategy video. So if you haven't seen that video, make sure you guys go in and take a look. I agree with you, Anthony. I think there's a lot of pre-scheduled orders, limit orders sitting or hanging right around that $100,000 mark. The other thing you mentioned, there's an old saying, I'm not sure if you've heard this one in investing. It goes, you don't get mad if the price of gas goes down just because you filled up your tank. And it's interesting, a lot of people will be so reactive in this space. They'll say, hey, I just put in $1,000, 10,000, 100,000, and I'm down 10% on my position. In reality, that's a good thing. You're able to now average down on your position. It gives you more time to accumulate money and deploy that money into the market. So I promise you guys, at some point in the next 6 or 12 months, you will look back at this video and say, I wish prices were back at that level so I could have accumulated more at this point in time. And we've actually seen some of the big names in the sector. I know you've got a tweet pulled here, Anthony, talking about that exact mentality, hey?
Yeah, absolutely. So we know one of the biggest uh, profiles on Twitter Space in the mining sector is Mike Alfred, and he's an advocate of the Bitcoin miners. He can see the future, and he has his own strategy where he feels they'll get to, and I listened to him on a space meeting the other day, and I think he was on about, maybe the 3rd or 4th quarter before he starts selling, and he wants to make sure he times it. He's not rushing to sell quickly, but he said that the pullback was only a healthy, and we're getting to this position now where the miners are looking to be, maybe a good price. And so his latest tweet today, which is just released before the podcast, is, he thinks we're getting close to the area where buying calls on miners for 2 to 3 months out will be extremely profitable, watching closely. So he's just giving people a warning now, if you're not in now, you might be watching the rise of the Bitcoin miners as we go over the next couple of months. So do your own due diligence. Don't just rush in and buy stocks because one person on Twitter buys it. But Mike's quite well respected. He knows he's a director of IREN. He's actually pulled out a couple of good positive quotes on miners this year. I mean, he called out Cypher as a companies that build great data centers, and so Cypher. I mean, he likes TeraWulf as well. So he highlighted those stocks there. CleanSpark, I think, is on his list as well. So as a true Bitcoin mining company, not interested in going into the HPC. It's a favorite of his there. and he's very bullish on Bitcoin as well. So Bitcoin rallies, miners rally, and he's done very, very well. He shared a few of his trades on the social media, and he looks to be in a very healthy position. He certainly drinks that expensive water that we keep seeing screenshots of. I mean, we were fortunate. I was fortunate in Frankfurt. We were having bottles of that all over the table at the Frankfurt summit there a few months ago. I got a chance to experience it. I didn't really, didn't find it was any different from normal water, but people are prepared to pay for it. If you pay a lot of money for it, probably mentally it tastes better. But as I say, I'll stick to what I normally drink.
Hey, don't be saying that. Aquapana's the new title sponsor of the podcast, Anthony. They just signed on, title sponsor, yeah. So we'll edit that part out. Hey, speaking of volatility, our good friend Michael Saylor, another key voice in the space, often says volatility is a feature, not a flaw of Bitcoin. Mike Alfred obviously pointing to that volatility as an opportunity to buy call options. That's one of my favorite strategies as well, Anthony. Wait for these big, oversized, double-digit red days, and you load up on call options. I know the January 2025s are very popular with some of the traders right now. So with that being said, another big name, big tweet here, the Winklevoss twins. They've now dusted themselves off from the Facebook incident, it seems. They're heavily involved in Bitcoin. And Tyler, one of the twin brothers, has gone on to say we're just in the beginning, basically echoing Mike Alfred's comment there, Anthony. A lot of people now actually raising their price targets on Bitcoin in light of the election, in light of the game theory, obviously the strategic reserve in the United States prompting other countries to want to get involved. So analysts, retail investors, Wall Street, they're increasing their price targets on Bitcoin, on the miners, and on the length or duration of this run. So again, as Mike says, we've done the groundwork. We're in the right position. Don't get overly excited here and rush to the exit too soon. Obviously, these pullbacks are expected and welcomed. Now, with that being said, Anthony, this was another interesting graphic on X here stating there are months when nothing happens and there are weeks when Bitcoin happens. We talked about this for about 6 or 7 months this year, really Bitcoin trading flat, consolidating after the big ETF announcements, kind of range trading. Now we've seen that breakout to the next level that we were anticipating. What do you make of this tweet here?
Yeah, I mean, it's we've seen this before in previous cycles. So, and if you look at the graph there, I mean, in September it's probably hovering around $54,000 at some point, and it was in that band all the way from about March, between sort of 54 and 65,000, still trying to get to an all-time high, and it achieved that literally, just over a week ago. But I mean, it's a big rise. I mean, that rise reminds me of when Elon Musk turned around and said he'd bought Bitcoin, or Tesla bought Bitcoin on the balance sheets, and we saw a sort of like a similar rise there. Well, we had the great news of the election, and so we know that Bitcoin, from a North American perspective, is fairly safe over the next 4 years. And if any action, if that paper gets approved by Congress about the strategic reserve, it's game over. I'm afraid that'll be the biggest catalyst since the ETFs to get it moving again. And like you say, won't be just the US; it'll be other countries as well. Everyone will want to be in on it. If you think about reserve currencies around the world at the moment, US dollar's been reserve currency for most countries. So if they're looking to move into Bitcoin and choose that as reserve currency, a lot of these other countries are looking at that. And then don't discount Russia and China as well, who are actively probably getting a balance of Bitcoin on their balance sheets at the moment. And certainly we've heard that there's mining operations going ahead in Russia because there are certain areas where they can access really cheap energy, and you may not have to have the most efficient miners to do that. So you could have some of the more older miners, but mining at a cheap energy price to deliver Bitcoin. So, it's as I say, we are still early in this position here, and a little bit of pullback last couple of days is nothing that's not happened before. Look at the volatility between May and October. There, it was in that range every couple of weeks, hitting the bottom of the range, then back to the top of the range, and so. I don't think we'll go that far down, but I think, there's too many good news stories out at the moment to keep Bitcoin back. It's going to keep rallying.
There certainly are. We're witnessing history in the making. President Nixon taking the US off the gold standard, and we now may see President Trump putting the US on the Bitcoin standard. Just fascinating. And if you look at the history of Bitcoin, what an accomplishment for this technology in its short existence or time on this earth. Now, moving along here, I mentioned that price targets are rapidly being expanded or increased in light of all these catalysts that you just talked about, Anthony. One of them is from the CEO of VanEck, so a $90 billion fund, stating that they think Bitcoin could now hit 350,000. So we've heard from Adam Back. He thinks 450,000 US. Obviously, Cathie Wood is extremely bullish. Michael Saylor's extremely bullish. We now have the hedge fund and money managers coming out with revised 6-digit price targets, which represents another significant increase. Now, I haven't seen any analysts reducing their price targets on Bitcoin, Anthony. So what do you make of these steadily increasing numbers?
I mean, these people have a better understanding of the business than maybe yourself and me. So, I bow to their knowledge. Cathie Wood's been very, very bullish on this. She was very, very bullish on Tesla before people got into Tesla, and that look where that company ended up. And she'll probably get it right on Bitcoin as well. Michael Saylor, it took him a while to get into the Bitcoin space. I mean, he's been in the space now for 4 or 5 years. But what he's done in that 4 or 5 years and educated, millions of people in understanding about the economics around Bitcoin, the potential of it. I mean, he thinks it's going, significantly higher, and he can justify that by comparing it to market trends for other sorts of asset classes. So, as I say, listen to Michael Saylor for 10 or 15 minutes on his regular updates, and you'll get a positive a message coming from those. But I mean, look at VanEck. They've got a significant amount of Bitcoin in their portfolio. I don't just think it's like them trying to sell the story. There's too many out there, too many of the ETFs. They're not even anywhere near the biggest ETF. You've got like BlackRock and Fidelity, who've got 10 times, 20 times more Bitcoin on their books than these two. This guy did, but every news story every week now on CNBC or Fox or Bloomberg, we're getting a prediction that's like 350, 450. We saw one commentator come out and say it's going to be at 3 million by the year 2050. So even if you just took an average of all those there, it's not going to stay around the 86,000 or 88,000 mark as it is today, and you just have to be patient. We'll get there. That graph graph we showed of the amount of Bitcoin being bought by ETFs, that basically tells you what's happening in the market at the moment. There's too many of these funds buying Bitcoin. 25 days of production being bought in a single day. That tells you that can't go on that far, because they'll come knocking on my door and I'll be saying, I'm not selling at the moment. Sorry, try Bryce, try somebody else. So, when that happens, they'll turn around and say, we'll offer you more money for it. We'll offer you some money. No, not interested. I'll keep it. This is, the Bitcoin itself, I'll sell mining stocks, but the Bitcoin itself, I haven't sold any in the 4 years I've had it. And, yes, it's had, it was down at 15,000, 20 months ago, back in December of 2022 when it reached a low there. I wasn't even thinking about, I wish I just bought a bit more then, maybe. But we've gone through a cycle and come out the other end really well, and we're about to go into a bull cycle now. So I'm really positive, and this just supports what we've been saying on the podcast for a few months now.
It certainly does. So we'll leave it here with this visual. Bitcoin has now surpassed Saudi Aramco as the 7th largest asset as it pursues gold in top spot. In summary, guys, we do not think the Bitcoin or Bitcoin mining stock rally is canceled. There's been a number of catalysts already come to fruition. The dots have been connected. We're seeing increasing price targets from every element of the investment community, retail, Wall Street, and the big names in this community. In addition to that, we've got Bitcoin hitting all-time highs on back-to-back days, and FOMO starting to come into the market, both on a nation state level and individual investment levels. So with that being said, you guys let us know in the comment section below. Do you agree with this thesis? Do you think we're early in the cycle, or do you think maybe perhaps we're getting close to the top? If you're still watching at this point, hopefully you found some value. Make sure you hit the like button. Feel free to subscribe. We'll see you back here tomorrow.